You got this people group in the office that makes you feel more alive. You know, the group of people in the office make you feel a little bit like you did when you were back in college. You were going to conquer the world. So ladies, you go out with the girls every Thursday night. You go out dancing without your husband. And that's okay because you know your husband can't dance anyway. Right? And besides, you don't really want him to come dancing with you and the girls because it makes you feel alive. For 3 hours on that Thursday night, your life is thrilling again. And you find yourself wondering, man, it would be nice to recapture this. Maybe I need to break away and run away. And maybe you're a guy thinking back to that old girlfriend you had back in college and remembering how passionate and exciting that relationship was and how much more passionate it was than you believe your current situation is. And something in you says, maybe I should look her up and catch up and try and recapture and relive because all this sameness is driving me crazy, making me feel trapped. North American culture, the culture we live in, even suggests that breaking away and running away is a good thing. You know, find a new environment, start over, and do things differently. I have a Christian friend. I have a Christian friend whose marriage was a year old and was disintegrating rapidly. His non-Christian friend, his friends that were non-Christian, told him what he needed to do was get a divorce, remarry, and then get as many divorces as he needed to until he found happiness. In other words, run away, run away, run away, run away. Keep running. Now, I hope you're smart enough and mature enough to know where that leads. In fact, some of you are here in church today because you already tried running away. But everywhere you run to, everywhere you went, there you were. The common denominator in all the different environments that you ran to was you. You're still the same girl or boy that you used to be. And no matter how many times you changed marriages, scenery, relationships, jobs, and location, everywhere you went, every time you broke away, every time you ran away, life didn't get better, it just got more complicated. Because the broken hearts kept getting broken, and you can't make a clean break with the past. You carry the past with you. It's part of you. And in your attempt to break away by running away, you simply give away years of your life. And you're back to wondering, is there a way to break out? To break away, in spite of the fact that I know that breakaway breaks hearts and it's a real mess. And now here's what's interesting, and this is what the message is about this morning. This is what Romans is all about this morning. In fact, this is what we're going to be talking about the next few weeks. There is a way to break away from the herd and the sameness and the sheep without breaking hearts. There is a way to break away from the pack and live a completely different life that brings such incredible contentment that you cannot imagine it in advance. A place where you are content. A place where you aren't yet there. A place where you ultimately want to be. You can find contentment where you are, and in spite of the fact that you're not where you thought you ought to be, corporately, maritally, financially, you can find contentment where you are, where you aren't yet, and where you're headed. In fact, that's what we're going to be talking about. I want you to imagine waking up in the morning. One morning, maybe it's this week, next month, and understanding that the trajectory of your life is completely different than it was the day or the week before. All of a sudden, even though the circumstances aren't instantly different, you could look at the day and say, my life is moving in a completely different direction, Pastor Ed, a healthier direction. And even though the future isn't here, and yes, I'm bringing with me some things that I wish I wasn't yet, to wake up, I realize today that the direction of my life is different, I believe, based on what Paul tells us, so what Jesus tells us, that is possible, and it's not found in running away. If you want to have a completely different direction in your life, it's not found in avoiding responsibility. It's not about trying to drum up some sort of emotional response you had in college or high school or some past relationship. It has everything to do with getting your life in sync with your Creator. Do you understand that God understands what it's like for you to be fulfilled? Because He created you to be fulfilled? Do you understand that God did not create you to be discontent, but that He created us to be fulfilled, and understands more than ever, and more than you and I ever will, what it means to have a fulfilling, passionate life? Yesterday, I went shopping for materials to make egg salad sandwiches with me and a bunch of ladies from our small group. Originally, the Facebook message said the ladies will meet at Costco. They forgot to mention that the ladies and Pastor Ed will meet at Costco. We came back to the church. We're downstairs. And we're making egg salad sandwiches. I asked the ladies if I could work on my sermon instead of making the egg salad sandwiches, and they said yes. And I sat there, and I could barely write the sermon. You know why? Because I heard contentment at a decibel level you wouldn't believe. They probably took an extra hour to make those sandwiches because they were laughing and enjoying the gift that God gave them in each other. It was wonderful. You know, this gift of contentment is summed up by Jesus in one sentence. Paul actually took 4 sentences to say it. That's what we're looking at in Romans. And the first thing I got to do is give you some context because it's so simple and so easy to miss. And it isn't new. Here's the context. What you believe, this is something I'm going to beat into you this morning. If you don't get it here in this one sentence and you want to write it down, don't worry. I'm going to give it to you more and more and more here. What you believe ultimately affects the decisions that you make. And the decisions you make determine the outcomes of your life. Again, what you believe affects your decisions, and your decisions affect your outcomes. And if you aren't content with life, it's because you're discontent with the outcomes. Years ago, there was this company in the U.S. called Webvan. It was a credit-based grocery delivery system. Okay, you got on the internet, you gave your credit card, you told them what groceries you needed, and the next day, they would bring the groceries, they would do the shopping for you, and they would bring the groceries right to your door. My friend's a pastor. I have a lot of friends who are pastors. One of my friends is a pastor in the Midwest United States. His wife loved this idea. So, he believed it was a great idea. And he invested in stock of Webvan. And he promptly lost $2,200 when the company, Webvan, went bankrupt. The problem was, his belief system was flawed. He believed the company was on solid ground. Our beliefs ultimately impact what we decide, and our decisions impact the outcomes. In other words, if I were to say to you, why are you where you're at financially, you'd have to talk about some decisions. What you invested in, what you saved, what you bought. If I were to ask you, why is your marriage in the shape that it's in, you talk about decisions that you made in your marriage. If I asked you what career, why is your career where it's at, you would probably talk about where you went to school, what jobs you took, what major you had, or why is your family in such good shape, or in such disarray. You're going to talk to me about decisions you made in raising your kids, and spending time with your spouse. What you believe. What you believe impacts those decisions. And those decisions result in those outcomes. But there's another sort of insidious thing. that happens in the systems. What you believe affects the good decisions you make, which will result in good outcomes. But sometimes you believe what you're making is a bad decision. And because you want something so bad, you go ahead and you make what you believe is a bad decision because you believe you can manipulate or handle the outcome. Example, you're single, and you say to yourself,